What is wrong with Falcons? It's a bit of a loaded question, but it wouldn't be a very good YouTube title if it wasn't at least a little clickbaity now, would it? Falcons came into the game with big dreams, bigger promises, albeit largely from the rumours within the media than themselves, and even bigger sums of money, but are quickly realising that not all problems can be solved with money. In their defence, like 90% of my problems could be solved with more money if they're offering. While rumours swirled of names like Nico, Monacy, and some hushed tones about ZywOo, people were hopeful and a little scared that Falcons were going to build an unstoppable Leviathan of Brobdingnagian proportions. What they've ended up with is still pretty impressive, but it's a little more modest, reserved. There's big names, but there's no bona fide superstar gigachad 9-inch six-pack half-man, half-machine guy to really push the project forward. So, what has gone wrong, what's still going wrong, and what's next? The first version of this team began with Boros as the aggressive star player in the place that was supposedly meant for Nico. In truth, it always felt like Boros wasn't going to last on this team, and well, we all know what happened. Boros was inconsistent and he had some personal clashes with some of the senior members of the team. Zonic, Snappy, Magisk, these are serious people who don't stand for any nonsense, and there was some nonsense about changing mice. This version of Falcons was interesting. It had a wildcard fragger who could go crazy from time to time and completely take over games, but he didn't have the constant level to match up to legends of the game he had on his team. It was, though, in many ways the most functional version so far. It wasn't great, and it'll always certainly have better teams in the future, but at least had a decent ceiling with a pseudo-star. Still, they moved on and replaced him sharpish with a real, genuine monster. With an asterisk. In Counter-Strike, there are few people with a bigger name, a more storied history, or a more anticipated comeback than Alexander's Simple Kostiliev. The most feared AWPer of all time, a dominant force in every single game he's in, and the only player worth watching in every game he's in. Simple in CSGO was at absolute worst the second greatest ever. He made the AWP look like a rifle, a sniper, a shotgun, an SMG, and what? There's the first caveat. He wasn't AWPing on Falcons, he was rifling. That's okay though. We've seen Simple as a rifler back in his Team Liquid days, and he was incredible even then. It's still a little sad to not see him on the gun that turned him from a face on Mount Rushmore to the guy who built the mountain though. He's also going off a break though, and that can come with a little bit of rustiness. No worries, he's the greatest. It's not going to take long for him to get... You loaned him for one event? Alright, we don't really get it now. I mean, we do get it. Can't really turn down the chance to play with Simple, but now you're back to square one and £1 million down. So how do you replace Simple, after one whole series with him which they lost? The answer might surprise you, and it might surprise Falcons because they have no idea either. They went with dupreeh, who, while undoubtedly a ridiculously good player, isn't really a superstar rifler in the same way. He's a workhorse, an entry, perhaps one of the greatest ever in his roles, but he's not a guy who is sweeping up and closing games down in the same way. If anything, he's a more accomplished version of Madden, who they already had. They both would probably do very similar roles in a top team, and there's kind of nobody to set up now. And that's where things are really going wrong for Falcons at this moment in time. While they have picked up a few wins as of late, they're on a pretty horrible streak of losses since picking up dupreeh, something that must feel alien to both he and Magisk particularly. Of course, things can't just be narrowed down to not having Nico or Simple or Monacy or Dong. Of course, it'd probably help quite a lot. There's very few teams who wouldn't start winning more if they added Dong. Snappy's form as an individual player has declined in CS2 to the point where even he himself has mentioned it as a reason that Falcons aren't as good as they should be. Snappy was never a brilliant player, but he was more than capable as the 5th or even 4th best player on a very good team. In CS2 he's been more unreliable and doesn't seem to have the pop-off games he's been capable of in the past. Similarly, Falcons have had issues getting the best out of Sunpire since the switch too. Sunpire in CSGO was a player who could put up those crazy numbers that Falcons kind of need from a star right now. In CS2 he's just another top 10, 15 AWPer. He's still good, but not elite, at least yet. Magisk and dupreeh are both still excellent, but are both better as secondary or tertiary pieces on this team. dupreeh's getting older as is Magisk, and CS is a zoomer's game now. That leaves Madden, who is in sort of a weird spot. He was a soldier on Ent, a man who took the tough jobs and did them extremely well, but he's been moved into roles with far more responsibility now. He's certainly got the ability to play these roles, but he hasn't really been the guy on a team since FPX, and that wasn't consistently at a tier 1 level either. He's always going to be a bit rusty, and switching up to a more active piece while playing with new teammates on a new game is a lot to put on one guy. He's not blameless, but he wasn't really expected to be the guy on this team. So to sum up, what's going wrong? A mix of high expectations born out of the figures bandied round, a mismatched team of secondary threats without a genuine superstar to build around, that superstar not really existing because some players has fallen off just a little bit in the new game, Snappy's dip in form, and yes, new team teething problems. The truth is that this team is filled with players who know how to win, and as much as things aren't great right now, even with all the issues we've outlined, it's tough to believe they won't figure out ways to win soon. This is still a team that might just need a little bit of time. It might just need one roster move to be great. It might not even need one at all. Some players improve significantly, especially on the T side under Snappy on Eds, and that player still exists. Magisk is still the king in big moments. Dupreeh is still a serial winner. There are few better soldiers than Madden, and we know how devastating Snappy's fast-paced calling can be. This is a team that is disappointing right now, but a prerequisite of disappointment is that we expected you to be very good. Disappointment is, in many ways, a compliment. Falcons can be really good, they're just not right now. And anyway, they're probably going to sign Donk, and Zaiwu, Simple and Nico, and 2014 Shocks and 2015 Kenny S, and Major Form Flamey, and DreamHack Stockholm MSL, and you get the point. What do you think is Falcons' biggest issue right now, and what did we miss in our little dissection? Let us know in the comments below.